Good morning, everyone. This is Lynn Sugiyama speaking on behalf of the Arizona Buddhist Temple here in Phoenix, Arizona. Thank you for your support and watching us on this video channel. Today, we're here to commemorate our loved ones for this May Shotsuki Hoyo. This is the time that we remember our loved ones who passed away during this month of May. Here are the list of names that we have for May Shotsuki Hoyo. This is in memory of Akiharu Arao, Frederick Carpenter, Miya Fuji, Yone Ishikawa, Robert Ishimatsu, Toshio Jason Kamada, Sam Isamu Kanemura, Chieko Kimura, Kikutaro Kishiyama, Kiyoe Komatsu, Sumako Kuroiwa, Marilyn Lawrence, George Matsuda, Katsumi Charlie Matsumoto, Harold Tomonobu Minato, Kei Minato, Warren Mizokami, Akiko Mori, Jinbei Mori, Kiyomi Mori, Yoshiyuki Motoyoshi, Kiyoshi Nagai, Kenji Tomioka, Katsu Tsunahara, Jinsuke Yoshikawa, Tamegoro Yoshimaru, and Yasuji Yoshimoto. These are the names for our May Shotsuki Hoyo. If we left any names out, please give us a call at 602-278-0036. Please join me in Gasho. Namo Amida Butsu, Namo Amida Butsu, Namo Amida Butsu, Nammandaps, Nammandaps. So today, let's take the time to remember our loved ones, and they have brought us here to the service today to listen to the Buddhist teachings. Next, let's listen to the Dharma message from Reverend Gibbs from the Pasadena Buddhist Temple. Thank you for listening and for your support. Please have a good day and please be safe. Namo Amida Butsu. Thank you very much.
Good morning. Thank you for participating in this service, which we're recording for preview May 9th of 2021 for the Arizona Buddhist Temple. And I thank the Arizona Buddhist Temple for allowing me to prepare this talk. This is the Arizona Buddhist Temple's Shotsuki Hoyo memorial service for the month of May. And for those who are here to recall a loved one who passed away in the month of May, I am genuinely sorry for your loss. I am sorry. I'm going to start by reading Renyo Shonin's Gobunsho letter Shonin Ichiryu, which is his summary of his ancestor Shinran's interpretation of the Pure Land stream of tradition. I'm going to read it in Japanese as a liturgical act, then I will begin speaking English and only speak English from there on, which will include reading a translation. But I'm going to start reading from the Japanese text, Renyo Shonin's Shonin Ichiryu. Shonin Ichiryu. Shonin Ichiryu no gokanke no omomuki wa shinjin no motte honto therare solo sono yue wa moromoro no zogyo no nagesutete isshin ni miru ni kimyo sureba 不可思議の眼力として 仏の方より往生は事情せしめたもそのくらいを一年ぽき入所上始終とも釈しそのゆえの正明年豚如来我が往生さらめたまいし言法人の念仏と心べきなりあなかしこあなかしこナモミラ仏ナモダ仏ナモアミラ仏ナモダ仏ナモアミラ仏 Well, again, thank you for joining us for this Shotsuki Hoyo service. Also Mother's Day. It's been 29 years since my mother passed away. And I haven't thoroughly come to terms with it yet. My mother was a good parent. Most of us, I suspect, were close to our mothers. However, with some people, you don't fully realize how close you are until they're gone. For example, my cousin Stephen Hayes, I mentioned last month because he passed away in April of 2011. And when he passed, we realized what a terrible loss it was. In any case, I do extend my condolence to those who are here today to honor a deceased relative or a friend who passed away in the month of May. I also wish you a happy Mother's Day, it being Mother's Day. I will, however, switch topics here. And for this morning, I want to think about the story of Amida Buddha, working to transform us all for the better. That story, the story of Amida Buddha working to liberate all living beings, and I want to look at it as a story. We learn the story of Amida Buddha from the sutras, from books. Now, do characters ever come out of books and into our lives? Some years ago, many years ago, I read an anecdote about two British literary figures. I don't even remember who they were, but they were at a cocktail party, and this one guy was just going on and on about everything. He was just clear about everything. He had an opinion for every topic, a real know-it-all. And those kind of people really irritate the heck out of me, I tell you. An opinion for every occasion, never at a loss for words. They remind me of somebody. I'm not sure who, but somehow they really irritate me. So I understand how the other guy felt. This guy's going on and on. He knows everything. So what this British literary gentleman says to him is, I wonder if you could tell me, and this is really something that's very important to me. Do you think that in the next life it might be possible that I may meet Hamlet? Now, of course, he didn't mean the actual historical figure Hamlet, the 14th century Prince of Denmark. That guy would probably be of no special interest. He meant Shakespeare's Hamlet, the Hamlet of Shakespeare's play. Could it be that we will meet Hamlet in our next life? I feel like I don't know, or at least I'm not sure right now. Could it be that we will meet Hamlet in this life in some sense? Absolutely. Hamlet's in this room right now because each of us is Hamlet just a bit. That's the thing about these stories. Stories are very important, the stories that we live by. The stories that we hear through the various cultural traditions we participate in become part of us. These stories become part of us. So if you're a baby boomer, you're partly Mark from The Rifleman. Johnny Crawford, he passed away last week, age of 71, I believe. Remember Cindy's birthday? The song? Maybe not. That was 62 years ago. But I'm partly Johnny Crawford, and I'm also partly Theodore Beaver Cleaver, but I'm also just a little bit Eddie Haskell, and you probably are too. These stories, whether they're the sutras, the stories about the Buddha, whether they're the most revered narratives of our culture, like the tragedy of Prince Hamlet, or whether they're TV shows like The Rifleman or Beaver Cleaver, they affect who we are. They become part of who we are. Each of us is Hamlet just a bit. But of course, as T.S. Eliot pointed out, we're also Polonius, the fool of the play. Hey, We're also dippy, compromised Gertrude, and insincere Claudius, and passively observant and helpless Horatio. We are the sad, lost, confused, compromised Ophelia. We are the deceiving and self-deceiving Rosencrantz and Guildenstern. Do characters jump out of books and off the page and into our lives? You bet they do. It happens all the time. So be careful what you read. Be careful which movies you watch. You must be Hamlet. But how many people are you going to be? How many movies and stories, books are you going to read? How many movies are you going to see? We are all, in part, Hamlet. So please play Hamlet as a hero. He was quite a dynamic fellow, you know, jumping off the boat onto the pirate vessel, switching the letters in the captain's cabin. So there's different interpretations. First time I saw Hamlet was in a movie theater when I was 11 years old, and I saw Richard Burton play Hamlet. He played Hamlet as the sexually obsessed Freudian, you know. I remember seeing, oh no, I'm sorry, that was Laurence Olivier. Laurence Olivier played the sexual obsession. Richard Burton played the confused, indecisive Hamlet. Neither one of those guys is who Shakespeare was telling us about. He's a hero. Read the story carefully. I've told you that anecdote before, perhaps, but I won't tell it too many times again. Do you think that in my next life, it might be possible that I will meet Hamlet? With the cyber teaching now, we can't repeat the same anecdotes all the time. What is Mark going to do, the other Mark? Out of the various books and the dozens of sutras, and especially the 3 sutras we have here on the Naijin, emerges this Buddha Amida. Amida Buddha steps out just like Hamlet. He becomes more and more real the more times you see the story unfold, the more times you hear the Dharma messages, the more times you read the sutras or reflect upon what you have heard and read. Amida Buddha will jump off the page for you just like Hamlet. Now let me go back. The liturgical beginning to this talk was reading Shonin Ichiryu. Shonin Ichiryu no Gokanke no Omomuki wa. But I'm going to read that in English now, if I may. The chapter on the teachings of Shinran Shonin. This is where Shinran's 8th generation grandson, Renyo Shonin, whose portrait is just behind me here on the Naijin, tried to summarize his great-grandfather's interpretation of the Pure Land stream of Mahayana in a single paragraph. And here it is. Shinran Shonin taught that the essence of Jodo Shinshu is Shinjin, trusting confidence in the vow. The reason is that by abandoning all other practices and completely entrusting ourselves in Amida Buddha, our spiritual rebirth is assured by Amida through the inconceivable power of the fundamental vow, the primal promise. This is known as entering the ranks of the truly assured at the very moment of Shinjin. Thereafter, all utterances of the Nembutsu should be understood only as expressions of gratitude for Amida's assurance of our spiritual rebirth. So that is the same letter that I read in Japanese to begin, Shonin Ichiryu. It's a very simple presentation of Jodo Shinshu Buddhism, a simple message. Trust in Amida Buddha's promise and live gratefully. Now, I first heard this kind of explanation of Jodo Shinshu for the fall Ohigan service at the Fresno Betsuin in 1983, 38 years ago. I heard this message first from Reverend Newton Nishiura, who passed away back in 2008 at the age of 90. He was a very good man and a good minister. But after hearing this simple message, now I'd just been attending the temple for like a month, and I heard this simple message: trust in the help of Amida Buddha as he fulfills his vows of universal liberation and live a life of thankfulness. And when I was impressed by this teaching when I first heard it, as it clarified the role of spiritual practice for me, which had been a matter I'd been struggling with in Zen Buddhism for about 15 years leading up to this. Now, that there is a paradox about spiritual practice has been recognized since the earliest days of Buddhist tradition. Practicing to achieve deeper insight and greater compassion is part of a self-centered, egocentric process, just what we're trying to go beyond. Doesn't working to be better and wiser and kinder reinforce the self-important perspective on life that we're hoping to be liberated from? There is a paradox here. It's not an unsolvable paradox, but it is a problem. And I had been struggling with it with a Soto Zen orientation. And in 1983, when I heard this sermon from Reverend Newton Nishiura saying, trust in the Buddha, live a life of thankfulness, this made a great deal of sense to me. I'd been attending the temple for about a month or two, and I remember calling up the minister there, Reverend Carolee Maka, and I told her how impressed I'd been by Reverend Newton Nishiura's Dharma talk, and she was kind of amazed. And I realized that now. She'd heard this explanation thousands of times. She was probably just a little bit bored with this simple explanation of our way of living. Trust in the Buddha's promise, live with gratitude. But I had not heard this simple approach yet, and it really moved me at the time. Now, speaking to you in 2021, now I have heard this explanation of Jodo Shinshu thousands of times myself. I've given it dozens of times myself. But I'm not bored with it. I think that I too probably went through a phase of being bored with this simple explanation. But for me, Amida Buddha names the reality that I am awakening to. Amida Buddha names this truth I'm awakening to. So it's not just an old story that I've heard too many times. It's a story that colors my life. It's a story that brings clarity to my life. For some of you, Amida Buddha may seem like a character in a play, but even so, plays become central to who and what we are. Now, most of us here in California have taken American history classes from the coaches in high school. This is a funny kind of thing that they bring the coaches in, particularly if you went to Catholic schools, they bring in coaches in to teach the sports, and then they, for some reason, always give them civics and history classes to teach. So the coaches at San Joaquin Memorial taught me about our founding fathers, and you may remember a couple famous valorous statements that as they were being executed by the British for revolution, Patrick Henry said, "Give me liberty or give me death." And 21-year-old Nathan Hale, before he was executed, said, "I regret that I have only one life to give for my country." It turns out that those are both lines from a play called Kato by Joseph Addison. So Patrick Henry and Nathan Hale both decided as their last words to quote a play. But the jocks that I studied history from didn't know that, and they didn't tell me. You know, the fact that they were quoting lines originally spoken by characters in a British play does not make those lines any less sincere and valorous, does not make their final words any less valorous and impressive. Patrick Henry and Nathan Hale, both quoting a play, quoting characters from plays as their last words, as their characteristic act. Who would I be without the story about Amida Buddha working to liberate all suffering and deluded beings? Who would I be, who would many of us be without Shakespeare's story about Hamlet? Will I see Hamlet in the next life? Yes. You bet I will. Will I see my mother in my next life? You bet I will. Here on Mother's Day, recording for May 9th of 2021 for the Arizona Buddhist Temple, recording at the Pasadena Buddhist Temple, I will insist that those of us who have lost our mothers will see them again. My identity mingles with my mother's. Your identity is independent with your mother's, interdependent with your mother's. We cannot be separated from the people we're truly close to. Thank you for joining us for this service. Thanks to Lynn Sensei and Vaughn Sensei and Michael Sensei for including my little message here in the service that they are providing for you. I hope to see you in person one day before too long. Again, my sincere thanks for participating in this service and listening to this Dharma talk. As usual, I will close the Dharma talk by saying the Buddha's name a few times and hope that those of you participating at home may wish to join me. We rely upon the source of limitless wisdom and endless life. Namo Amida Butsu, 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 Namo Amida Butsu. Namo Amida Butsu. Thank you very much.